Good morning, Smite Game. Welcome in. Founders Series Swiss stage continues on this wonderful Sunday. Malum and Lermy to start your day off with some EMEA action. I've been looking forward to it basically all day, night. I haven't gotten to cast EMEA in the Swiss stage yet, so I'm excited. Plus, I get to cast with Lermy. The
Oh.
day can't get much better. But if you want your day to get better, and maybe even your friends too, make sure you put exclamation point access in the Twitch chat right now. You'll get yourself access to the base edition of Smite 2. Send it to some friends. Get the 5 stack going. Roll out with the homies and, you know, dominate, hopefully. No feeding.
Smite
No
is more
feeding
fun
allowed.
with friends.
Exactly. See? Secret code as well. Make sure you use that to get in. And you can be playing Smite 2 today. And of course, check out those Founders Editions if you are enjoying your time. Lermy, EMEA. Are you pumped?
Yeah.
I'm so pumped. We were talking about the rosters right before we loaded in. I know we're both
Mhm.
excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a big game coming up and really a big day overall for EMEA. I'm really looking forward to what these guys have to offer, especially on the new CA3 patch.
So much changed, and
Honestly,
it
really.
instantly went to work too. Yesterday for EMEA, I think the biggest thing overall, the biggest elephant in the room was actually the dog in the room. Anubis was just there
Oh, yeah.
all day long, and taking a look at what we can expect, a lot of competitive bands out there. Thanatos is back on the menu, but base
Mhm.
teleporters, Totem of Coup, cooldown reductions, there's so much.
Yeah, honestly, like you said, I do think that Anubis is just super strong. We should also be looking out for him, but the cooldown cannot be understated here. With a lot of the revamp, you saw a lot of cooldown rates go up on items. A lot of items have 30 cooldown rate now, so you'll see a lot of Chronos pendants on your Inscalers, lots of breastplates if it's applicable. So you might even see people play around that, where maybe less physical characters, more magical characters if they want to play around that specifically. But yeah, I mean honestly, for me, those are the two things to be looking out for. Of course, base teleporters and Totem of Coup also very very important to be checking out on the various sides of the map. But overall, it's got to be cooldown for me. I'm so excited to see those builds.
Yeah, it's the builds, it's a lot of the fighting too. I
Mhm.
like that the emphasis is always put back on fighting recently with the teleporters getting you back quicker, especially if you can use them at the right time. The Totem of Coup is bringing back soul laners just destroying each other in that circle to
Yeah.
get things going. Well, let's take a look at the bracket for today overall, kind of see what we can expect, and also get an update on what we saw yesterday. Team Risk 2-0, Smoke Break 2-1 over Typhonic. Two teams that a lot of people have been looking at. You see the 0-1 side as well. And today we got a couple great matchups for sure. Yodi Gang, Mockingbird, Titans Reloaded, Giovanni Giorgio is what we're starting with today. I know Giovanni is a very, very popular team, but yesterday, Lermy, I'm not sure what you got to see, but there were a couple upsets, especially in NA, with Food Drive for Globe taking down
Oh
Scrumptious.
yeah.
So I'm kind of at a point where I'm a believer in anybody.
Oh, for sure. Ever since we've been doing a faster patch schedule, it's all about who can adapt. So I'm really excited to see, what these teams do, what they bring to the table in this new patch with a lot of new balance. I mean, like we talked about before, Anubis went from probably the worst god in the game to maybe the best overnight. And people haven't been practicing him, or if they just choose to ban him away, that could show, honestly. And they might have to be afraid of that.
It's funny because in NA we saw him picked up a couple of times in solo and definitely not perform as well, but it looked like
Yeah.
EMEA knew exactly how they wanted to play that Anubis. He was very tanky, cooldown forward, and was still doing a gazillion damage. So
Yeah,
there
you
was
wouldn't
no
expect
there was no
that.
punishment to it. Yeah, it was so strong.
Yeah, honestly, I have not seen much, Anubis beforehand in terms of, that high level play. But now that he's out here, you'd be surprised what kind of builds he's running. And maybe that's just to again reinforce just how strong this cooldown build is where in Smite 1, that's a lifesteal Anubis. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have a pretty set build, but now you can be a lot more flexible, especially with a lot of other characters as well, and across roles, which is just a huge part of the benefit of checking out Smite 2.
Exactly. Don't worry, we're going to get back into the nerding out about gods and items very quickly. But first, let's take a look at the schedule and see what games you can expect to see today. Once again, the day starts off with EMEA. And as I mentioned, we got Titans Reloaded versus Giovanni Giorgio to start things off. Mockingbird versus Yodi Gang will be your 1 p.m. matchup. Bunch of exciting off-air games as well. Make sure to check out the Smite 2 directory and see who may be streaming, casting, or whatever have you for those off-air games. And of course, later on today, we go back to North America for some more action there. And Cowabunga versus Secret Service will start us off at 3 p.m. Cowabunga, the most popular team, the favorite team. Give them every accolade you want. But I think both teams, Team Whip with 5M, Sporsh, Cowabunga, I think they're all aware that they've got to tighten things up after Scrumptious fell yesterday to Food Drive for Globe. And Secret Service would love to play the upsetters for Cowabunga. And once again, check out those off-air games and see what POVs you can find of those. Plus, there's open bracket stuff going on today. There's Smite 2 esports as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, just so much action going on, especially in these upcoming weeks as we continue to fill out this Swiss bracket. And with all of the patches coming through as well, lots of nice little bug fixes and balance to also be expected between weeks. So again, it's all
So
about that
cool.
adaptation and what these players are going to be able to do with all the cool new stuff getting cooked up.
The quick patches, the quick balance changes, like you mentioned. I really like the point you made about how quick can players adapt. I think that might be a spot where some of the newer talent, the newer blood to the scene, can really try to excel. That their ranked Gremlin hours are
Hmm.
really going to pay off with this new quick schedule. I'm looking at teams like Titans Reloaded. So let's get in picks and bans for our first game and see just what they pick up. There's a lot of names on that roster who I think are just they're next up and they're just waiting for their big moment. And Giovanni Giorgio could be that big moment. I guess we have to just now see which characters get banned away first.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see Anubis, of course, as we have surely said quite enough at this point. But I'm also really excited to see if we get some Odin bands, maybe some Fenrir bands, all very strong characters. But Hecate is going to be the choice here, a character that really does flourish with a lot of cooldown reduction, especially with that very strong ultimate. I mean, it did get nerfed in this past patch, which, is a little bit tough for Hecate, but it still is quite a game-changing / fight-changing ultimate that you would love to have on your side. And of course, the Fenrir getting taken away, no surprise to me. Very strong jungler, even post-nerf.
A lot of it, too, is the sort of hybrid builds we're seeing Fenrir's go. That adapting was one of the first people who was really trying to make happen, going a little bit tankier and more just utility-oriented on the Fenrir in the jungle. Giovanni Giorgio, though, they do go Odin to start things off. So Anubis still on the table. And your mention of Hecate, I really like you pointing out that the ultimate got nerfed because, man, like, she still was so heavily prioritized yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Because the ultimate, the damage is cool, but what it does to the map is totally different. So to see her gone, a bit unlucky for both mid laners for sure. The Bacchus picked up to start things off for Titans Reloaded. And the Jingwei. We've seen that do a lane a time or two so far, Lermy.
Yeah, that could even still be a Bacchus solo. I mean, his damage
True.
did get nerfed, again, considering he was still very strong performing in CA2. So going into CA3, I'm still not shocked to see him just because he does do pretty well into most backliners. And yeah, they are just two characters that can get out of that Odin cage in some manner or another, at least for the Jingwei. So they'll probably be playing around that just a little bit. And then again, Neith is just a very solid pickup overall. She could flex into either mid or ADC. Either role is honestly good for her. And by golly, if someone were to have a 30-second ultimate, you don't want it to be a Neith because getting sniped across the map every 30 seconds will hurt.
It does hurt. It hurts a lot. Kaigon showed that yesterday during North America. The amount of damage that was being done on that Neith was actually making my brain cease to function. I could not comprehend. I mean, we've seen Neiths doing a lot of damage, but there was just something about the way it was being put to use there and working around your team CC that was so good that, Giovanni Giorgio is a team that obviously does homework on top of the skill they already bring to the table, so that Neith can be pushed even further, as we do still wait on that third pick from Giovanni Giorgio. And if you kind of look and see, like, where could we go from here, it's sort of like do you want to lock down that damage in mid? And actually Ymir coming out to go alongside the Odin. See, that makes a lot of sense too, because Ymir has just been, who doesn't want the Ymir right now, especially Kha'Zix?
Shall we get to it then?
Yeah, I mean, if one wall was not enough, make it two between the Odin and the Ymir. So you love to see those kind of things, trying to lock down Titans Reloaded, at least positionally. And if someone's going to be finishing him off after that lockdown, it will be Susano. It's just another very strong character, especially in spiking throughout the early to the mid game. You love to see those kind of things. And then Neith actually taken up by Titans Reloaded. I was just going to make a point here about how these hybrid scalers are super, super strong right now, because they essentially have flex into
Time for some
double the
fun.
items that other characters do that are more single focused in terms of their scaling. So you love to see the Neith for that reason. You love to see Odin for that reason. But you also love to see Loki for a different reason, where he is really, really good at picking off squishies.
One thing that's really interesting
my
about Loki too, and
fury.
you mentioned that sort of flex scaling that we're starting to see. A lot of Lokis have been going Soul Reaver to get some extra procs on your decoy. Just in general,
Mhm.
you're doing health damage. It's one of my personal favorite parts so far about Smite 2. I really like that change, especially because now that changed since the earlier stages of Smite 2. You only have to build one kind of defense item, so it's very easy to understand how to be defensive towards that flex scaling, but it gives so many options, such a wide variety of things you can do to play into the enemy team. We've got an Anhur, a Cuckoo, and an Athena. So, you know, there's the easy question, Lermy, of, oh, which team comp do you like more? But I feel like you can take us a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah, I do think that both of these comps have a lot of strengths in different spots. I am a little bit concerned about how the Loki and Athena are going to be able to deal with the Odin come the late game, and especially if Odin or Ymir is forcing movement abilities, and then Susano gets to pick him up afterward. That's going to be pretty good for Giovanni and Giorgio, but I do think overall the stronger comp probably does lie with Titans Reloaded just at a base level. You know, we've been seeing a lot of Cuckoo doubters, which I think, you know, is fair a little bit. He still is a very int-focused mage that doesn't super heavily rely on cooldowns. You know, you see a lot of other characters like Hecate, and then like, you know, a couple of other ones like Zeus can even be played in that regard, where cooldown matters a lot for those characters. Cuckoo, he just do a lot of damage. He just hits hard. That's what he does. And so if they can have the setup for that, that's going to be awesome. But, you know, considering that their best setup right now is Susano pull / Ymir freeze / Odin stun, not the best look in terms of, you know, easy 1-2 combos when it comes to getting some of those wombos off. So it's going to have to depend a lot on player skill and a little bit less on that setup.
CC's been the name of the game so far. A lot of people kind of being forced to rush Talisman and Purification to respond to good CC when it's in the game, so it's a little bit scary to see one team sort of forgo that angle, and it's going to be something that Giovanni and Giorgio need to be prepared for, but let's see how everything shapes up. Let's get into game number 1 and get our day of Swiss games started. Again, Malum, Lermy with you on the cast, and of course, always thank your production, the GOAT Doug, alongside us, and already Giovanni Giorgio rushing through the jungle. But there's always been these questions of how much blood will actually flow from these invades.
I mean, they might catch someone unprepared here. Listimix might just have to walk away. Does see the invade before it comes out. The question is, how many folks are going to commit to actually staying up here, or are they just looking for a little early game fun?
It's sort of this idea of, all right, we rush, we see if we can find that first pick, give somebody that plus 500, you know, but if we can't find it, all right, back to our side. I know there's a lot of timing being done and discussions of what times are you good to do invades and when it's most optimal to get back to your side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, you can see here, they got spotted out on that right-hand side, so Titans Reloaded just poking around in Giovanni Giorgio's jungle, seeing what's up, dropping a couple wards, making sure their presence is at least known. So regardless, we're going to be doing a bit of just solid cleanup here in our own jungles. No shenanigans. I think especially because Sunder as well got nerfed a lot in the early game and towards the mid game. You know, I'm not surprised to see only one player on each team go for it. A lot of shells though, I will say. That is so many shells.
I was just going to ask you about that. 4 shells and a Sunder grabbed up for Titans Reloaded. So they're very aware of the walls coming out, and a lot of people are using Shell as sort of a pseudo Aegis. And Trelly and I were talking a lot about this yesterday, Lermy. I'm very interested in your take. We both kind of were just like, I mean, if you are a character who benefits from Aegis, just get Aegis.
Yeah, I think it depends on what level of burst that you're up against. And of course, Cuckoo, good at doing that with the ultimate. Susano, of course, very strong at doing that as you see him secure that middle red buff. You love to see that for the Susano, who's now going to be heading on over to grab that red buff of his own. But yeah, going back to your original question, just kidding, maybe. We got a lot of fighting going on.
Yeah, they said, what if we fight? Questions are cool, but what if we just throw hands looking for an early first blood? A lot of damage onto Athena, but no real chance for a kill unless she oversteps. Susano is lurking solo as well. Demic says, all right, I'm good. My senses are tingling. I'm going to back up.
Ooh, very nice wall there onto Bandolero. Going to have to take a bit of damage though. Dash is in. Just trading back poke right now. But honestly, with the buff to on her, he's more lethal than ever in lane. So we might get a bit of action there. At least in a little bit.
Loki lurking. Seeing if there's any pick to be had on Giovanni. But they're aware. They're stepping back. You know, that was something we saw a lot yesterday too. We saw jungle sort of doing a side lane split of one goes towards solo, the other heads towards duo to see who can rush that first blood out. But it feels like more often than not, if there wasn't a true 3-on-3, there wasn't even enough fighting committed for a first blood.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Jungle now is a bit difficult to find that pick on, especially with these super disciplined players that, you know, they're on the lookout, they're talking to each other, they're in comms saying, hey guys, jungle went right. And so, you know, whoever is right obviously is going to be on the lookout for that. So any sense sniffed of those junglers hanging out in that jungle will be found out. And of course, that's why we don't see a whole lot of action unless folks are getting sloppy, which these guys, they're not sloppy.
Not at all. I mean, even Titans Reloaded, we talked about there's some names to keep eyes on, and my instant go-tos are Ragna and Dark. Keep your eyes on those players. They are definitely who come to mind when I think of next up type of players. Ragna had a really strong showing, even on land during the Content Creator Cup, so definitely worth keeping our eyes on. Two-man taunt in, but no kill off the back of it, even with Loki lurking. I wonder what it's actually going to take for these junglers to commit to an early gank here. They've been so patient.
It's going to be tough because buffs are coming back up, you know, both speeds on the junglers end are coming up as you see adapting, going for this invade. Meanwhile, you know, Loki might not know what's going on here. Dark's got to be careful because if he leaves that even for a second, yeah, that speeds up is adapting.
Kazak's in a lot of trouble, down real low. The Typhoon to try to create some separation. Does it well. Now you've got a rotation out from the Cuckoo. Can you get the CC? The pull in on two. There's a Spirit of 9 Winds. Won't find a home. Ragna went to the left. So no kill for Giovanni. They do keep the Ymir safe, but Ymir is still low. But that far enough away, enough separation created. A clean disengage from both teams, but the fight itself, a little sloppy.
Yeah, it just turns out that when some people have their ultimates and others don't, it gets a little dicey. And speaking of dicey, having to dash away there is Ragna from the ultimate coming out of a porous, but Blink in from adapting is going to secure that first blood on the Jingwei. Did not have the ultimate to fly away at that point, so big cleanup there for the jungler.
Adapting knows Susano. You know, he knew exactly the amount of damage he could do and how quickly he could get underneath that tower. That's something that the experience prevails in 9 times out of 10. And to see it there for First Blood is pretty massive for Giovanni, because while First Blood itself is obviously a big bonus to gold, they were already creating a noticeable gold lead pre-5 minutes, so it really starts to add up.
Yeah, when you are a little bit late to your camp timers against your average casual players, it's not that big a deal, right? It's kind of chill, you know, you're not too worried about them actually taking it, but against a seasoned veteran, like adapting, someone who has won multiple world championships that knows this style of play inside and out, yeah, you're gonna get punished for that.
Coast uses that teleporter to get back to lane quickly. Lermy, in your games, in your opinion, what are some of the best use cases for those teleporters? Are you a believer of just, well, I backed, I may as well use it, or are you more of a pick and choose?
Me personally, I just love the kind of tension you get as a player when you're like, okay, can I survive another 30 seconds for this teleporter to be up and get that really efficient back and really efficient buy? There are some players that like to play a little bit more around the power spikes. And speaking of power spikes, having gotten the ultimate online, you might see a fight break out due to it.
Big stun, the Phantom Shell does help with the assassinate, and Coast gets a nice stun as well. Adapting now here, damage real good. Will the Loki go down? Typhoon says yes. Second kill for Susano. The Titans Reloaded just could not make the most of that jungle invade, and they'll have to back up, but can they get away? Airstrike used. A lot of damage onto Coast. He does sidestep the second hit of it. The land down, Ragna still in trouble and will go down. A killing spree already for adapting. Athena's just gotta go.
That was a little bit close to getting body blocked by the side camp as well as the Ymir wall, but phew, what an engagement there for Giovanni Giorgio. I mean, did you see the snap turn that adapting did on the ultimate to just barely catch Loki in the Typhoon. That was insane to me. That just level of reaction and accuracy with the ultimate out of this Usano. I mean, adapting has not skipped a beat. He's not lost the spring in his step. He is still the GOAT that you know him to be.
I remember one of the open tournaments that were leading up to the Founders Series. There was a moment where Adapting was playing Thanatos and just a Loki wasn't even in execute range. Adapting just happened to pick the right spot in the correct stealth grass to land the ultimate down to then kill the Loki. And that was my moment of, oh, okay, so we're just right back where we left off in Smite 1. Got it. Noted. Write it down.
For real. I mean, all of these players have very storied histories on Giovanni Giorgio, especially with, you know, Vaporish over the past year, getting a lot of excitement around him, and Nika as well, both getting their first world champion win over in Smite 1. And glad to see them sticking together over here on Giovanni Giorgio. It's just such a nice thing to see teammates stick together, especially with Dardas maintaining that core trio.
I've been loving, too. You mentioned the caliber, the accolades of Giovanni Giorgio, but for teams like Titans Reloaded and also teams like Food Drive for Globe who are starting to level up, the experience they're getting in these Swiss stages now, playing best of threes against rosters like this, it cannot be understated. Mandalero, speaking of which, might just learn a lesson there, and does! The Spirit of the Nine Winds catches right at the edge, and down goes the Athena. The first kill to somebody not named Adapting.
Yeah, that's about right, honestly. But yeah, you were talking about how the experience is really valuable for these players, and these are still very, very high-level players. But being able to fight such a high-caliber team does teach you quite a lot. And like we were talking about earlier with the invades, it is really important to stay on top of those measures in your games, and that will kind of expose a lot of the weakness of some of these teams, you know, and that's just the case for any team that you play against. When you watch these back in a VOD review or you do anything of that nature where you're like, oh man, you know, looking at it in hindsight, I should have been there, or I should have known that, you know, they were going to play around this particular style, or even in like a best of 3 scenario like we're in. Adjust that for game 2, for game 3, wherever we get to. Now you know how to play against that style better.
Another significant dance around this purple buff on the blue side of the map. You mentioned a fear for Titans Reloaded, their late game, and the Athena Loki. It looks like they're trying to put some work in early, but the CC of the wall has been so effective, but 2 ults committed and not a lot of damage there. Adapting here, the Blink Typhoon, the damage, all so good! Another kill for Adapting, and it all worked out in the end. The fight started off so rough, but Adapting's like, oh, I got it, don't worry, guys.
Yeah, they did do a solid amount of damage on their own, but really Adapting is the finisher. Using all of their escapes, essentially, did Titans Reload have to do from that engagement. And now they're looking to pull this Gold Fury here. A bit of a concerning choice, considering that everybody's back up. Teleporters exist. Sunder's not as good anymore, but they do have a Cuckoo ult. So maybe they've got the secure in the bag.
The ult with the Athena ult on top, but will not out-secure Giovanni. They get the Gold Fury, and they take Dark as well. 6-1. Almost 6-2. Coast gets the jump away from Jingwei. Those bolts were hitting, but 10 minutes. We got our first Gold Fury, and we got a pretty decent gold lead for Giovanni Giorgio as well.
Yeah, that was a bit of a sketchy engagement. Turns out okay for Giovanni. Of course, they don't lose anyone, so you can't be mad about that. But dang, that gold lead is starting to get a little bit higher. You know, not too concerning quite yet. 3K, not the end of the world by any means, especially at 10 minutes. If you're only down by 3K at that point, you are very easily still in this. There is you know, a late game to farm for. Of course, your mid lane is still basically just a little bit behind in the XP, but only by a wave or so. And especially with the teleporters and having that kind of advantage of getting back to lane, getting to farm super efficiently, there's no real concern over being too far behind in that regard. So really, as long as they're playing around this Neath, I'm looking forward to what that turns into come the mid to the late game.
Lermy, I've seen your streams. I've watched you in Casual Fridays. You get a lot of kills when you play carry mid. Coast has 5 assists. I know we're in a competitive setting. Kill stealing doesn't exist. You know, it doesn't matter if you get the gold. 5 assists though. Are you mad?
Yeah, man.
I'd be mad.
Listen, every carry, deep down in their heart of hearts, is a little bit mad. Just a little bit.
See?
Just a little bit. Not a crazy amount, not to an extent that you gotta be, you know, concerned, but being of someone who's not concerned at all, that's gonna be Dardas, who takes the Loki damage to the face and Gops it off.
Basically giggles, yeah. Trouble for Bacchus. The cage is out. Lestemix will get the jump away. Typhoon hits, but not enough damage. Very tanky is that Bacchus, and it's paying off. Aegis in the mid lane. Cuckoo in trouble and gone. AC pulls through on the Neath for a big one. Now Kha'Zix in a lot of trouble, but has rocket jump. It's taunted back in. Now the shell just not enough to survive, right? Right? Dark's
Kha'Zix
committing.
is-
Don't let it happen. Oh my god, he's gone. I can't believe it. And now adapting. Yep, I'd wave the white flag too. Dark goes down. The rampage for adapting and the great escape for Kha'Zix.
That was an insanely timed teleport, by the way. The fact that he had it up, the fact that he decided to go to mid, the fact that like, you can't put all those things together, bro. Adapting cannot be this good on cooldown. Ultimate coming out from the Athena to try and save the Neath's life. They're gonna give up on that engagement there as the shield gets eaten through, but wow, what an insane escape to an insane turnaround. Yes, they lost Dardes, but can't be too mad about that one.
If I'm going back to Coast, if I'm Coast right now and my team's pulling away with a lead like this, if it keeps getting significant, all I'm saying is I'm holding my Impale like a second later trying to get that last little nab. That's
Me when I'm coasting.
yeah, exactly. See, you get it. You get me. We already got the chemistry there. We figured it out.
Oh yeah, and speaking of chemistry, it's going to be all about how these teams combine together with their comps coming into the late game. And we've already seen a lot of strength with adapting at the helm, but really we need someone on Titans Reloaded to step up and slow down this advance. Still 3K in the lead here, pushed a little bit further by that ton of Goo. Secure Ragna in a bit of danger, does get over the wall there, so it's going to be out for now, but you know adapting's not getting too far away.
Definitely not. Adapting can certainly smell the blood in the water, and no matter how many red icons we see go left, I feel like adapting still might want to fight with the lead that is there. Purple buff invade out. That was indeed the case. And it is secured by Titans Reloaded. Two-man taunt. Damage actually looking okay. Coast with a jump away. Adapting already repositioning. Kha'Zix was already low. They might both go down. They do. Dark with a double kill onto the duo lane. Look at the rotation out from the Odin. Bacchus not here. Gold Fury will be pulled, but there's lots of Giovanni, Giorgio here for the contest. Dardes lined up. Gold Fury at half. And Titans Reloaded. They're like, no, we get it. Okay, my bad, my bad, my bad.
Dang, that is unfortunate there that they had to give up that Gold Fury, because I would have assumed they would want to keep going in there. They have the two-man advantage. Unfortunately, Lestemix doesn't make the rotation, but if he did, I could have seen them keep going with that. They just, you know, they have a hard time securing into the Cuckoo wall, which Dardes did not have at that point. I don't know how closely they're keeping track of those timers, but if they had that information, I feel like they could have snap-locked that. They might have even secured it. It really does also depend on if Nika had the Sunder up, because of course Sunder really good at securing those last hits on objectives, and you do have to be concerned about that combined with a nice little 3-1 from the Cuckoo.
One of the toughest characters to get away from an all-smite has to be that Sasano. Adapting close to the wall. Is that enough distance? It is, but no. Tick damage to bring down Ragna. The jet stream to get closer to the wall for Typhoon to hit is, I mean, how vintage adapting can you get? Just not able to find the kill.
Very close. So I was surprised that he even hit, to be honest with you. If he had just held it for a moment longer, get a fraction more of that damage on it, he would have actually gotten that kill. I can't imagine that Jingwei had more than 100 health there left at that point. And luckily for Jingwei, being Jingwei, even if that teleporter is down, still got a quick path back into the lane. It's still solidly chilling at relatively even, considering all of the battling that's gone on this left side.
I mean, even more now. Kha'Zix, once again, with the wall for safety. The Assassinate, it's a repeat of the previous fight. A World Weaver, too. So much committed onto Kha'Zix, but this time they didn't even get that Ymir that far below half health. Titans Reloaded, maybe regretting that a little bit.
Oh, they are trying to pull the Gold Fury, though. They've got the Queen Naga on the side of Giovanni, but this Gold Fury is getting dangerously low. Dardes still no ultimate here. Might have to be a little concerned.
Already a death, and it is Kha'Zix's gold. Stolen away! The Spirit of the Nine Winds was perfect. How will the fight look? Adapting down early, a shutdown for Ragna. But Nika ready to clean house. Dardes hitting Zephyrs. Everything's finding a home, it feels like. They get the gold, and they've gotten 3, and they're not even done yet. Giovanni Giorgio, just a masterclass of a steal and a team fight to follow. The Bacchus will be the last one dead.
Yeah, I cannot believe, by the way, that me literally saying, oh, Dardes doesn't have his ultimate. It had 2 seconds left. It came up at just the right time. Just in time to steal the Gold Fury, grab a kill or 2 for himself, and then finish it off. I mean, what an insane circumstance that this seems to be happening over and over again. So maybe it's not our luck. There's some skill to this too. The last time that ultimate came up perfectly, teeing up this next engagement for them. So, my goodness, you couldn't write it any better.
I don't know if I've ever seen a better argument for Chronos Pendant early on in the build than that previous
It made the difference. It made the difference.
It did, because you said it. You were like 2 seconds off, and that 2 seconds probably came from the Chronos passive.
Yeah, between the passive and the 30 cooldown rate, you are loving grabbing this item. 2,300 gold for such a stat-efficient item at this point. I mean, yeah, can't get much better. For Cuckoo specifically, though, you're not building too much cooldown because you really do have to be focused up on stacking that mana. So you do see Book of Thoth as expected on that character. Into the Soul Reaver, again, another mana item. You'll have to be seeing that extra bit of damage as well come out on all of your abilities. So not too bad either way. Actually seeing a third item, Chronos Pendant, over for the Neath, trying to get those stacks online too. And we were talking a little bit earlier about hybrid builds and how those are really, really effective across the board. You see Neath go a bit of int, a bit of strength, a bit of cooldown, and a bit of more int. Looking forward to seeing what that turns into here. But good damage on Ragna, forces out multiple ultimates. But
Adapting's here, so is Athena. It's never truly a 1v1. Who's gonna get the better of this 2v2? And so far it's Titans reloaded. A massive Athena ultimate to help out Ragna. They might even be able to bring down Adapting, but Sasano, not the easiest character in the world to catch. You can see a rotation from the Loki, seeing maybe if he can be the one to do it if he picks the right turn. But no, Adapting will take the safest route back and just sacrifice some jungle.
Yeah, all Ragna had to do in that situation was survive, and boy, did he do that.
Wow, this has been a lot of fighting early on, and it looks like it's not even done. Kha'Zix alone and duo will be gone before Dardes can even get there to do much of anything. 11-8 now. And that gold lead, you know, we were talking earlier, it was 3K. And you said, you know, 3K is not the worst if you can keep it in check. And realistically, Titans Reloaded have done just that, despite losing 2 Gold Furies, despite being on the losing end of a lot of fights. Adapting catches out Ragna before the back is good, and will get the pick and go down in the process.
Yeah, a bit of a greedy fight there for Adapting. Dardes might also get caught out here, depending on how close this Athena can get to him, but using this slipstream to make some space here, and not too bad here for Dardes, able to dash away with those cooldowns again. Holding into mid, trying to grab this on her. That's one dead kitty cat.
That is a dead kitty cat indeed. That's
unlucky.
That's tough. That's tough to be Coast there. Yeah, going back to Coast, I did want to ask you, speaking of items and just kind of ones that have re-emerged, man, Dardes might get aggressive on this, and does indeed. Needs just one more measly hit to bring down AC. Misses the Zephyr, misses the Whirlwind, misses the auto, gets that Zephyr. Okay, all's forgiven. Anywho's, Dagger Frenzy's back.
There. Yeah, Dagger Frenzy did receive a very, very solid buff. Putting that active on a 30-second cooldown is very solid for an item that boosts your damage by quite a lot. You love to see popping that at every given team fight, so I'm not surprised to see that on both of our ADCs here. And honestly, sometimes you see it flex into other places depending on what kind of character they're playing, but not surprised to see it in the places that we're seeing at this game. The Fire Giant might just be the next thing on the docket here. It's gonna depend on who shows up around this corner, and considering the Simic is there, they gotta be dropping this, right? They're not doing this right now.
And be ambitious to continue to do it. Giovanni Giorgio might want the team fight. Their team fights have been real good. Fire's not even at half. There's an ultimate out from Astemix. Is there enough from Titans Reloaded to turn this, to make anything happen? The Bacchus is almost dead. Dark, same exact problem. The Ymir wall to slow the escape of the Loki. And the 9 wins will pop Dark. It's a full retreat from Titans Reloaded. I can't believe this fight has worked out for Giovanni Giorgio, but it did. They said, all right, you're standing there. We're down to throw hands. AC will pick up one kill at the end of the fight. Maybe a second. Coast to jump in. Around the corner, look who's there. Is there anything? No, there's still not a kill from it. No way the Bacchus of all people will get to live. Larry Bacchus started this whole thing.
Yeah, well, you could say Bacchus did, but realistically, it was Giovanni Giorgio on that fire giant, which, you know, typically when you pull a fire giant, you're not really expecting to win the fight afterward. But that is indeed what happened here. Thankfully, though, they were able to manage to return a pick onto Giovanni Giorgio with some excellent burst there from IC, but a pause coming out as I do believe we had a disconnect there for Listimix in the middle of that fight, and that is an unfortunate time to get hopped out of there.
Yeah, the timing of it is unlucky, but with the pause feature in, we'll have some time to kind of really adjust and look at where we're at in the game so far. Lermy, again, I bring back your earlier point. You harped on the Loki Athena was the key to success. That was your key to victory if you were Titans Reloaded. And there's been some fights where the Loki Athena combination, you drop the ultimate, you drop the assassinate, you combine them, you get in the fight, has worked. But overall, are you feeling like it's actually paying off for Titans Reloaded, or are they where you expected them to be?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a very solid job at taking down Coast. Coast, unfortunately, has been getting forced out a lot of these fights because we've been seeing Dark go in with the Vanish, and then if you're vanished, you don't see the Defender of Olympus come in at the same time. That FX is just completely invisible to anyone that it may hit at that point. So getting a lot of burst off at that point to be able to slam down with the Athena, use the Vanish basic, do any other kind of basic attack cancels with the Hydra. That is a very solid amount of time and damage before really Coast can even react to anything happening to him. And, you know, considering that he does have Shell, he does have a bit of an out to that, but so far, it just hasn't been enough for Coast yet. But thankfully, Giovanni is taking the advantage of all of those resources getting spent on Coast and putting them somewhere else on killing most of the enemy team.
We've seen that a whole bunch. Early on, we saw it from adapting and to kind of an insane extent. The Rampage came out incredibly quickly.
Mhm.
It has felt like adapting has slowed down a little bit after the shutdowns. You mentioned there was one incredibly aggressive play, and then Dardes has picked up a lot of the slack as well. So we'll see if they can continue to pass that baton back and forth. But real quick, we're going to take a quick break while we get this figured out. We'll be right back with more action. Wake up, game's back. Gold Fury started. Giovanni Giorgio grabbing it early on, looking to extend the gold lead, and they'll grab it. So we're back, and Giovanni Giorgio are back with a vengeance. 66,000 gold, putting them 6K ahead of Titans Reloaded, 15-11 as we come up in 24 minutes.
Yeah, I would say that lead is looking a little bit risky, but at this point in the game, as long as we're feeling like most of the fights are even, it's not that big a deal. You can see even that experience across the board is pretty similar, if not the same. Just a little bit of advantage there for Giovanni Giorgio, but they continue to kill these objectives over and over and over again. And those last two, unfortunately, Titans Reloaded just did not have any contention. They had no stake in the game there to be able to try and make something happen. So realistically, they need to kind of step it up here, or else we will see a bit of concern coming out towards these later stages of the game. But honestly, I get it. You want to farm out, you want to try and make things happen, get those items online, get those combos going, but it's a bit difficult considering the circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely is indeed. Another pause coming out. While we get that figured out, we can continue to kind of touch on where we're at. One thing too, side note, Pyromancer sound, so sick.
Oh, I'm so happy that it's back.
It's such a
It's
good
just so
sound.
iconic. It's
Yeah,
iconic.
and every time that sound is hit so far, yesterday Trelly and I were just kind of like obsessed with it. Trelly was like at one point when Pyro goes down, just like let's hush for a second so we can actually hear it come
Yeah,
through.
I totally get it. Speaking of other things that are back in this patch, though, I'm very, very excited that we got some tech in for body blocking to feel better. We did see a little bit of that action happen over in the dual lane against Kha'Zix earlier, where a very solid body block coming out from Dark on the Loki did end up netting them a kill. So altogether, it feels better than it ever has before. We've had a lot of engineers really spend a lot of time detailing exactly what happens in Smite 1 and bringing that part over to Smite 2. So thankfully, that feature is back. And I know a lot of other features like that are on the way, but man, does it feel good to trap someone between a rock and a hard place and get them stuck there.
Yeah, it's the idea of, okay, we have to really, control. That's the key word, I think, right?
Mhm.
Control of the map and putting everything to the correct use. I'm trying to think of the best example from yesterday, because there were so many different instances we saw. Yesterday was a long day of games, Larmy. It was a
It sure
long day of
was. It
games.
sure was.
I'm wrapping my brain back through, and I'm like, okay, I remember making a joke about taking a breather. I remember, I was like, I remember Food Drive winning. It's all blur.
I mean, honestly, considering how crazy that set was, I can only imagine that. You look back on it, and that was just a whirlwind
It
of
was
fights
after Trelly and
throughout
I
the
were
rest
like,
of it.
so like we could talk for a bit, but food, and he was like, yeah, I'm getting food. I was like, all right, good night. we got right off. It was such a great. I mean, I sat there, I got off, and you would think like, oh, why would you talk more about the games? I couldn't stop talking about the games that we had witnessed, and I hope today ends up being more of the same. Still waiting on Giovanni Giorgio versus Titans Reloaded to get back started up. Currently working out their issues with a pause to be had. And we talked about the baton passing back and forth, Lermy.
Mhm.
Do you expect that Dardes will kind of be that hero late, or are we waiting for Coast to kind of come alive the later we go?
I do think that Dardas has a bit of a better chance considering that mid lane gets a solid amount more farm than over in the dual lane, but you know, you never know. We're seeing a lot of penetration come out here for Coast, so he will be able to deal with those tanks a little bit more effectively as a character than Dardas will, but Dardas getting some sick ultimates, especially with that Polynomicon online now. He's going to be doing a lot of burst damage, I tell you what.
25 minutes, we are back in. Titans Reloaded at the Fire Giant. They've already started it up for damage. Giovanni Giorgio nearby. Fire Giant let go. Just kind of testing the waters, I guess, seeing if Giovanni would fully step up and go for the attempted contest. These Fire Giant dances, Lermy, I feel like they're starting earlier in Smite 2 than they were even a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I do think a lot of that has to do with just how these gold curves have ended up feeling out in comparison to what you even see in Smite 1. Just getting a lot more items a lot earlier in the game, which is always a good feeling to be able to, you know, get that power spike feeling good even faster. You love to see a game that really forces these late game engagements at a point in time that you feel like you're ready for them. You know, you spend enough time in the lane, enough time fighting around Gold Fury, let's fight around Fire Giant, a game-ending objective. And especially because Ancient Fury is up on the docket real soon, they're going to want to see if they can get this right before that.
Ancient Fury did go through some changes this patch. Only affects the foremost structures, and it sort of acts like a pseudo Emperor's armor. For those familiar with the item from Smite 1, basically the towers and phoenixes will just attack a bit slower. And I feel like overall it's been a good change, but the Ancient Fury Lerby has still gotten the same priority from teams since the change.
Oh yeah, especially because there's still so many T2 towers available, but hold that thought here, we gotta fight.
It all blows up from one taunt, and then Pandalero is the one who blows up right after. 3-man stun from Titans Reloaded, but their damage isn't following up. Dardas is in the pack line, running down Dark. Out of the Zephyr will hit just out of range. So Dark will be able to get away. That fight exploded because of a taunt from the Athena, and the taunt is the reason the Athena died. That's sort of the problem you were talking about in the picks and bans.
Yeah, when you have a wall, followed by a freeze, followed by a pull, followed by a Spirit of the Nine Winds, it's a tough thing to get out of when you are forced to use your dash in quite frequently as the Athena. And unfortunately for the Athena, it's just how their team comp works that they don't have as much burst to follow up on. And now that they might be missing a lot of that burst, this Fire Giant is going to be very difficult for them to try to score. And unfortunately, no one even makes it there. just so much DPS coming out from Giovanni and Giorgio at this point. And now they're looking to run down this right-hand side.
The Stimix is in solo still, and it looks like Giovanni Giorgio, they're indeed nowheres. This is going to be a tough escape for the Bacchus. Very tanky, now has the shield as well. That's already gone. A re-engage though, and it's working out okay for Titans Reloaded. They've already picked Dardes. They regroup, look for a new opening. Lystimix goes in. Look at how much damage has been sent right back. This is all from the chase onto the Bacchus. Nika jumping into the backline. Will there be a new pick onto Ragna? Not yet. Lystimix is still in the face of Giovanni Giorgio, but they've stayed too long, and Titans Reloaded will lose 2.
Seemed to be a bit of a disagreement there on the call. Icy trying to get in and help out Lystimix, but unfortunately the rest of the squad just wasn't as willing to commit, especially because Dark had to back, getting poked out very early in that fight. Did, you know, make their way back, but unfortunately not in time to really be of use towards that later stage of the fight. And now that Ancient Fury is available and ready to go, you know, we might see a little bit of a slowdown, little reset there. Thankfully, Titans Reloaded were able to slow down this advance on their own by taking down Dardes in that engagement, but you know, with the Fire Giant getting ripped off of the mid laner, that might just be pretty solidly worth it. It's going to depend, though, on how much we see Giovanni Giorgio actually take advantage of the structures that have been decreasing their efficacy across the board here, especially because it's all tier 2s. So once they go through and strip the map of the tier 2s, that means Phoenixes are the next on the board here. And once one Phoenix goes down, that's the base open. And that could be the end, as early as that.
The gold lead is uh-oh territory for Titans Reloaded, and you can see it in their builds as well.
Did you say uh-oh territory?
Yeah, I did. Shout out to Z-Tan from the Amateur Casting State. He said that one time when it was a 10K gold league, and I was like, yeah, I'm never going to forget that. That is too funny.
Yeah,
it's the perfect
I don't know if I've ever
description
heard
of that
that
amount
term
of gold.
before, but yeah, it is uh-oh territory, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, what else can you do in the situation? Titans Reloaded, they're ready for a Phoenix Siege at 30 minutes, but we've seen how much damage Giovanni can do. It's a matter of when the engage comes out. A lot of damage on the coast. Maybe that's the engage call for Titans Reloaded, but not quite.
Yeah, they pushed back the front for now, able to slow things down, and I'm wondering if we'll still see Giovanni Giorgio try to force this left-hand side, but I wouldn't be surprised if they simply decide to back off and grab the other 2 structures that have been affected by the Ancient Fury. Solid poke damage coming out, though, from the Loki. Able to get some Heartseeker procs off, but not sure if we'll see much more than that. Gotta be a little concerned, though, that Nika is lurking over on this left-hand side. Ancient Fury is still going to be going on for the next couple moments here, so another structure taking quite a bit of damage, and surely is going to fall in the next few moments.
Surely. Or maybe surely the engage comes out from Titans Reloaded. A lot of damage on, but Phantom Shell handled most of it. And it's been returned onto Lystimix. Forces the Athena ultimate on, but the Athena was low. That forces a retreat for most of Titans Reloaded, but Dark did not get that memo and was able to find a pick onto Adapting. Spear of the 9 wins. Will that find a kill? It certainly helped. Vape Coast will find 1, and Giovanni and Giorgio have taken out 2 members of Titans Reloaded. They lost Adapting. Undeterred, though, they step up to the Phoenix. Mid-Phoenix will go down fairly quickly. So there's the Phoenix you were looking for, Lermy.
Yeah, I mean, they do have that opening now. And considering they traded Adapting for 2, and both of those characters being damaged characters, it's going to be a bit concerning here for Titans Reloaded in trying to defend this unless they get a quick pick, which honestly, Darda's very low here. Might have been a risk, but thankfully Giovanni Giorgio grabbing that Phoenix and getting the heck out of there because they don't want to risk Dardes at this point.
Not at all. Well, okay, we got a little bit of time. We're at 31 minutes. You know, the stages are on. The gold lead is crazy. But I want to get your take on a build. Because yesterday we talked a lot about ADC builds. North America, towards the end, we saw a couple of players building this full sort of attack speed pen, almost similar to the pen build of Smite 1, where you grab the Dagger, Frenzy, the Kinsblade, and it feels like crit has been forgone in some instances, but I'm curious on your opinion of it.
Yeah, I mean, crit got nerfed an absolute crap ton going from CA1 to CA2, so I can see it making sense that it fell out of favor a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised to see not too much cooldown being prioritized, but as soon as you said Hey, where's the crit? We got some crit from our boy
They
Vaporous
heard me.
Ghost. Yeah, picking up that last item, critical strike there. So maybe just to continue to help burst down those squishies if he's ever able to reach them. And of course, you know, crit is very solid against objectives. And what's left on the map here? A Pyromancer, a Fire Giant, an Ancient Fury, all of those things, which can be crit. Yeah, it seems pretty good.
That checks. The journey of critting the big objectives. Titans Reloaded, hopefully for them, will find their way to contest one of them. With 2 Phoenixes down, it's always a risky call, but you've got to do something. You can't rest on your laurels forever, and Titans Reloaded know that. Semic stepping up. Fire Giant let go by Giovanni Giorgio, looking at the Bacchus, who dives in aggressive. The Odin Cage out, that helps lock down the kill onto the Bacchus. But Coast gets picked up by Dark, who was lurking in the shadows. But when he goes back, he will not have his support any longer, as Adapting has found a double kill. Dardes, Feared 9 wins, no kill. Ragna lands down in front of the Cuckoo, sidesteps the Zephyr, and lives longer than he should have. Maybe Dark can make a play on that if he can get to Dardes. The decoy, the damage, it's good. The Phantom Shell not going to be enough. So he'll die out to the Whirlwind after the fact. And Titans Reloaded will lose 4, maybe even 5, if Icy cannot survive this damage from the tanky boys.
These are some very solid juice coming out from Icy, but unfortunately, 2 tanks versus 1 squishy. Yeah, that's just how that will normally play out. And with Adapting on the way back to these fights and 2 full lanes of fire minions running it down into the Titan room, that's probably going to be the end of the game, folks.
That's going to be your game number 1, going to Giovanni Giorgio, 25-15, and a heck of a lot of gold for the blue side. Titans Reloaded had a couple of moments where I could kind of sense us both being like, okay, wait, maybe I'm a believer. A lot of the plays that we saw from Dark, some of the damage that was being done by Icy, but ultimately it does come up short, and Giovanni get the better of it.
Yeah, I think overall we were seeing that Titans Reloaded were getting some very solid picks, very solid plays, but at what cost? If it takes 4 people on your team to pick Dardes or Coast,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to win the rest of the engagement. So honestly, they did do the things that they were supposed to do, but they got to clean it up for game 2 in terms of what they are actually doing in the fights versus their goals. Because their goals, they're solid. They're on point. They know exactly what they should be doing. But it's all going to be about those mechanics and how they work as a team going forward to be able to take down a Titan such as Giovanni Giorgio.
Luckily for them, best of 3s in the Swiss stage. And against a team like this, you definitely learn a lot from game 1 that maybe you can bring into game number 2. We'll find out when we come back from break, so don't go anywhere.
And then I said, that's not Bacchus, that's Bilson's mother. That one always makes me laugh. But enough about my weekend. Hey, Gormizer, what's new with you?
Just picked up my SMITE 2 Founders Edition.
Very nice.
Purchased it on my preferred gaming platform just yesterday.
Nice skin.
It's Cacodemon Ymir. It comes with all SMITE 2 gods. Forever.
That's very cool, Gormizer, but that's nothing. Look at this. Night Stalker Neath and Ascension passes for 11 Alpha Launch gods. What do you think?
Geez, that is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
Can't believe that Bandy prefers Chelly's Founders Edition to mine.
Very nice. Impressive. Let's see J-Max Founder Edition.
Look at that avatar, badge and title. The tasteful thickness of Tier 5 Fallen Zeusia. Oh my god, it even comes with Ascension passes for all 23 Alpha gods.
Don't be like this psycho and upgrade your Founders Edition, so you don't miss out on Night Stalker Neath, Tier 5 Fallen Zeus, and Ascension passes for the first 23 gods. Upgrade today.
Hello, welcome back in. First of all, Lermy, you have to work with that. Are you okay? that was frightening.
I adore that video so much. It's so
It's so
funny.
good.
I just love all of the like overly cheesy acting. It's just my favorite kind of content that we put out is doing those silly little skits, and what a good skit it is, and what a greater product that this Might 2 Alpha is.
Exactly. A greater product and, cheesy acting, but when do the Oscars come in, realistically speaking? But if you want to keep yourself out of the rubber room with Gormizer, the way to do that is the Founders Edition. And Lermy, yesterday I took Trelly through the step-by-step, so pen out, follow along with me. Founders Edition, it's really awesome. It's part of SMITE 2. So to play SMITE 2, ! access in the Twitch chat right now. You're going to see some links pop up and a code. Follow the links, put in your code, get in-game, play a game, look like adapting, drop 30 kills, say, wow, this is the best game I've ever played. Open up the store on your platform of choice, pick up a Founders Edition. Realize you like the game even more? Grab Deluxe or Ultimate Founders Editions now and get all those bonuses that Gormizer was freaking out about. It's realistically a win-win process.
Yeah, and it does help support us as well, and that's always a great time when you get to move on forward and see a lot of the new stuff coming up. If you like what you see, it's always nice to grab some stuff for yourself, and at the same time, make even more happen.
Exactly. And with all the quick patches, you got to support the dev team. You guys are doing surreal work. And I mean, look how you have Gormizer acting. That speaks volumes on its own.
If that's how Gormizer acts for that, I can't wait to see with how he's going to act with what we've got coming up next as well. I am so excited for a lot of the stuff in the works, as I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen all of the updates coming through. We've got more coming, and hopefully everyone's just as excited as we are.
We'll see if we can do like a live reaction cam to Gormizer every time a patch comes out.
Gormizer live reacting
a
to
wellness check.
notes. That's what we
Exactly.
need.
Yeah. The psycho cam in the bottom left corner. Well, we got more gaming to do. Game number 1 between Giovanni, Giorgio, and Titans Reloaded. We really harped on how Titans Reloaded could have made that game a little bit cleaner, but there were some moments, and Lermy, you kept pointing them out in the little spots where Titans Reloaded were trying to make us believers, but Giovanni, Giorgio just seemed to be one step ahead all the time.
Yeah, they were, again, doing the right steps. They were just a little bit sloppy on the footwork. And for them to be able to clean this up in game 2 would be very huge. Take us to a game 3. That would be a dream come true, honestly. But overall, I did like what Titans Reloaded were trying to put together here in terms of their comp. They had a lot of really strong moments, bursts of inspiration. But the consistency and the synergy coming out of Giovanni Giorgio in that last game, just unmatched.
The synergy. I think that's one of the biggest points you mentioned, because we talked a lot about how as Swiss stage is going on, we're in best of 3s, you're getting the experience, all the talking points as casters are loving to hit. One thing that's getting better, even in your worst game, is your synergy with your team.
Yeah.
No matter how many scrims you do, no matter how much ranked you grind with the pals, you can't beat the actual game time experience.
Yeah, when you start to get into those good habits of talking through what you're thinking and what you're doing in these games and how you want to approach these team fights. I mean, you see a lot of these pro players and other very strong contenders in these tournaments streaming their attempts right at in these games, and so you'll see a lot of the time what they talk about in those engagements matters so much, because you can be the best player in the world if you're not telling your team what you want to do or what you want to achieve in this upcoming team fight, or even what to worry about what the other team's going to do, then you got to be a little bit concerned. It doesn't matter the level of mechanical skill as long as everyone's prepared to adjust for what's on the table.
Exactly. Adjustments, the abilities to adapt and improvise, those are all key aspects of competing in professional esports. And let's get to game number 2 and see what the adaptations are for Titans Reloaded, who do take the blue side first pick this time around. We were both disappointed. There was no Anubis in game number 1. We were
Where is
both
he?
looking for it. We talked about it so much, and he wasn't even there.
Yeah, I've been gassing up the Anubis a lot. I've been seeing him a lot in ranked and in casuals, of course. And, as someone that has access to the statistics of picks and bans in those regards, I can say he stands out. So I'm not surprised, just considering the air that Anubis has in professional play, that he doesn't get mentioned here, doesn't get picked up very much, especially against teams as clean
No fight
as
is
one such
unwinnable if we
Giovanni
try our
Giorgio.
hardest.
But I am a little bit shocked here to see the Jing Wei prioritized, because that leaves Hecate on the board, and considering that she was banned last game, that might be an easy pickup here for Giovanni Giorgio if they want it for Dardes.
Dardes looks great in the Cuckoo, but one common theme across all the regions has been that if you can play a Cuckoo, you can probably play Hecate pretty darn well. They've got a lot of similar positioning aspects to them, so on and so forth, but Giovanni Giorgio, they want to prioritize that Ymir once again. I would assume for Kha'Zix, you had a really good call out of the Bacchus solo for Nika in game 1.
we get to it then?
Titans Reloaded, they're put in an interesting spot where they seemingly have the better picks available. They could grab the Hecate for themselves, they could lock away the Cuckoo, and they start by locking away the Susano from adapting.
If
Yeah, that
danger
is a
sets foot on my
huge pick
doorway,
there for Titans Reloaded.
I'll
And
destroy
speaking
it.
of huge
It's quite simple,
picks,
really.
Hecate also going to be the selection here for Titans Reloaded, and I am really liking this comp so far from them. I think that they are going to struggle a little bit in the second half of this draft, because arguably the 2 best tanks have already been taken away, but you never know, they could pull out something spicy. You might see an Ares in this game, which wouldn't be too bad considering they're against Bacchus. Gonna be a pretty easy pull there.
Time
But
to live
Ares is a little bit dangerous into characters like Neath as well. So it's going to be really about what these frontliners are going to pick up here. We could even see something like Mordred, Barcelona, but it's going to be the Chop. And that's a little bit surprising to me, but he is probably the safest out of the bunch there. So I can see what they're kind of going for here, is let the carry shine. And the front,
Wisdom and
the
strategy
front
are better
will
defenses than
probably
shields
just
and armor.
continue to keep it moving, set up everybody else, and stay alive is the most important thing.
Staying alive, that's the key. The Athena's locked in, but I have to give you credit and express my disappointment that there wasn't an Ares there for Titans Reloaded.
I'm a little sad.
During Smite Too Long Didn't Watch, we talked about the other regions going on, APAC, Brazil, LATAM. Ares is one of their top picks right now in their competitive scene. In APAC, it was a 100% pick ban rate for the most part, if I'm not mistaken. So to not see it there, a little disappointing, but the Athena did have some good moments. And one thing we can definitely say was the ultimate was used perfectly, maybe 80% of the time in game 1. But other side, the Cuckoo, back to Dardes.
Yeah, and honestly, considering, if you take 2 or 3 steps forward in that draft, I could see even more argument for the Ares, because against a backline like Neath and Cuckoo, Ares goes kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie to you. But I get it. Ares is a character that you just have to really perform on. You have to be so accurate with those chains. You have to be prepared to even get a blink, which in this case, maybe is not the relic of choice for many of these players. At this point, we saw a lot of shells, a Sunder or 2, and Purification Talisman does help cover the weakness of the beads a little bit, but getting forced into a blink is really, really tough for a lot of these circumstances, which does make Ares a bit harder. Again, just high performance god. But Athena, Also, very, very good in that regard as well. Able to get those taunts like we saw in game 1, and hopefully just has a better supporting cast to make that happen.
We'll see if they're supportive enough. Let's head into game number 2 between Titans Reloaded and Giovanni, Giorgio, Malum, Lermy, and Doug to bring it to you. And I gotta say those names so quick now. I've noticed J-Mac, Olsen, we're all doing the same thing. There's so much action to start out these games. We've got to do our introductions quick. Because teams like Giovanni, Giorgio, they want to run through the jungle and find an early pick. Valero does get rooted, knocked up 2. Phantom Shell out, the full commit for the first blood. Can they get it? Chalice ticking means no. They cannot get that first blood.
That is a bit tough. You know, there's still a lot of time here for Bandolero to be able to walk back to lane. Doesn't really have to use that teleport, but yeah, that's a bit tough to be forced into the dash first thing as the Athena. Not the worst clear in the world, but it is just a bit slower than everything else, a bit less damage than the rest of the kit. So unfortunate there that they were forced into that ability, but it did keep them alive. So are they really too mad about that? Who can say?
Would have been very different if it was plus 500. I guess that's kind of the deal of every invade up to this point is, do you actually get the first blood you're really selling out for? This time, no. But laning phase, that was a positive for Titans Reloaded in my mind, because until adapting started arriving for Giovanni and Giorgio, I kind of felt like Titans Reloaded duo lane was having a decent laning phase.
Yeah, they were definitely sticking in there. I think all together with Jing Wei over in SMITE 2 having a lot of the improvements that she does, she actually for a time was the best clearing ADC out of the roster thus far. And yeah, honestly, it's a bit surprising considering her storied late game only history in SMITE 1. But SMITE 2 is a whole different beast when it comes to those things. And speaking of whole different beast, damage here from adapting, getting a little crazy here, but able to follow up. The shield being the second choice is very interesting from Icy, but it does end up keeping the jungler alive. So again, can't be too mad when you're picking these abilities and it ends up paying off.
Dark is still looking for adapting in the jungle, or excuse me, adapting still looking for Dark in the jungle, by the way.
Yeah, the gods switched between them.
Yeah, the gods
it's
switched,
be a little
yeah.
confusing, but
They switched it around, but still looking for him in the jungle. Meanwhile, duo lane, Ragna in trouble, but the slow root hits. Phantom Shell. Like clockwork, the re-engage comes out from Titans Reloaded, responded to with the Phantom Shell. 2-man taunt, is that enough? No, Ragna a bit low, doesn't want to overstep.
ooh. These have been some crazy roots out here for Coast thus far. And Dark getting a little bit poked out as he's making his way over to the solo side. Totem of Ku about to respawn. Looks like, though, the Giovanni and Giorgio right on top of that. Not going to even give Titans Reloaded the time to look at it, much less try to even fight over it.
Dark, pull in, good on to Nika. How much damage will follow? Not even a full commit. That duo lane fight, you made a really good call of sort of how the trades are going back and forth, but the instant popping of the Phantom Shells so early, I feel like if this were, you know, later in the game, we'd be saying, hey, like if it was a beads, we'd say beads are down, we can expect the junglers to instantly go to the duo lane. We just saw all those Phantom Shells popped, and there's not really a rush seemingly from the junglers to head over there and take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, Shell's nice and all, but it's no beads, right? Beads is something that you have to look out for when you are a character with heavy CC, especially against a character like Neith, who, for instance, has no CC immunity built in the kit. But speaking of no CC immunity, EMEA is going to get pulled there. Unfortunate miss there from Dark on the 2, not going to be able to grab that EMEA back in to follow up on, so he's just going to leave. He's like, dang, we messed up that one. Time to go
A little bit, yeah.
Anything else.
Adapting on the Loki is lurking in the duo side jungle. Could look to go aggressive, could also just look to steal some farm away. Plus with wards out, Titans Reloaded they're knowers. They'll back away. But junglers are still nearby. And Adapting and Dark have both been 2 junglers so far who are not afraid to fight. The invade comes out. First ones there are Giovanni, Giorgio, so they will secure away the purple buff, and Titans Reloaded kind of just get stuck watching.
Yeah, again, in these games where you're playing against these super seasoned veteran players, they know the exact moment that it takes to bring up a lot of these camps. Oh, very nice steal away there from Titans Reloaded. Able to push a lot of damage on the Kha'Zix, but everybody's rolling up now. Might be a way bigger fight than they intended for.
Phantom Shells getting dropped like clockwork, but meanwhile, Kha'Zix in the backline almost dead, but Icy could not find it. Spirit splits, but Kha'Zix goes down to Dark on that re-engage. But Titans Reloaded, they're very low. Will they all get away? Ragna certainly will not, and neither will Bandolero. That's a double kill for Darda as Adapting's got his own with Icy going down. Dark, the last one standing in this engagement. And there's an interest called off from Giovanni. Damage done, though. 3 big pickups.
Yeah, what an unfortunate series of events there for Titans Reloaded. They actually get that first kill, first blood going over to Dark, and you love to see that from them. However, when things turned around for Giovanni Giorgio, it went from bad to worse. Getting ultimate up on that Neath, especially after that second kill, secured the third one. And there could have even been a fourth if Dark hadn't been careful enough to path in the way that he did. So thankful there that it was only limited to those guys and not too much else. But what a way to start the game off with a bang.
Icy in some trouble. The wall brings Icy back into the whirlwind. That should be enough damage, and it is a killing spree for Dardes. I'm hesitant to ask you about. Yeah, exactly.
It's gotta be Dardes. And he's already got 3. That's crazy.
Stun. Not going to be enough. Spirit 9 Winds was committed early, so there's trust between the two, but the damage for Dark is significant. The Typhoon missed! The auto does not, so an early shutdown for Dark. And the Defender of Olympus, just in case. I wanted to ask you, before all this continues, Babe Coast across the map takes out one, and Nika lives to see another day. It's not even a complicated question, guys. Please, pause. Conduit Gem, kind of being forgone for sands of time since the buffs. Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. 20% cooldown rate for free. Literally, for free. Never, ever bad, I will say. Especially in this world where you can stack a bunch of that cooldown rate on. You want that on a Neath that can just shoot arrows across the map? You'll love to see that kind of thing. And I'm not surprised to see a bunch of stacking across the board. Still the easiest way to grab that flat pen and really make a difference in these early games against these squishies. All these builds make complete sense to me, I won't lie to you. I am loving the direction that everyone's going, but it's going to be about if they can keep it going that way.
I know you're one of the biggest stands of the Tritons conch for Listemics on that chalk. I remember you talking about that early on in SMITE 2's history. Will it help out on this gank? Unfortunately not for Listemics. Adapting does a bit too much damage right now, but it gives us a moment to look at the item.
Yeah, I mean, 300 max health is not nothing, and it sure did keep him alive for a little bit longer, but speaking of someone who needs to be alive for longer, it's Dark!
Danny, lots of shells, so maybe just so!
Oh my God.
1 pixel and a dream is enough for Dark to get away. Kha'Zix, opposite story, maybe same thing actually. Ymir going to be all right. Actually, a taunt back and a dash. We'll get away from the wall. Everybody walks away from that fight unscathed somehow, but Adapting doesn't want to let this one go easy. Rotates through the teleporter. Lurking in the jungle, actually sees the Titans Reloaded are going to camp. That's going to be enough of a go button for Adapting to look for Ragna, taunted away, holding on to no ultimate online. That's the whole difference of this fight. Coast couldn't get aggressive either, has to backflip out, no kill for Giovanni Giorgio.
Hey, they did get to steal away that purple, which is a big deal when it comes down to it. Dark's gonna get the Defender of Olympus coming through, pulls Dardes back in, open the gates, pulling 2 back.
And bang, down goes Dark. Kha'Zix might just follow a great ultimate. Kha'Zix again gets to walk away. All right, if I'm Dark, I've got a vendetta for Kha'Zix, but I'll settle for an Adapting for sure. That's a double kill for the Sasano, 4 in total for Titans Reloaded.
Now, if they're cooking here, they pull gold. They're not cooking, unfortunately.
No.
I do think that is a great opportunity for them to go, especially because a lot of those teleport cooldowns are down. The only one that's not down here is Dardes, who will not have the ultimate up. So a little disappointed there to not see them go for the gold, really push that lead that they have, because I mean, Dark is 4-0 right now, man. You really want to start pushing and pushing and pushing, really not letting go if you are able to. And that would be one way to really start to spiral this game, is if they're able to push that Gold Fury advantage. But taking it nice and easy for now. Understandable, considering the circumstances of last game. You want to kind of take what you can get for a little bit.
A lot of damage onto Ragna. Does turn around and gets the better of the gold camp. But look who's here. The cavalry has arrived. Again, no 1v1s in Smite, but Coast was privy to it and able to step away in time. Lermy, I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Neith ADC. She's been more traditionally in the mid lane. How do those builds stack up against each other in the ADC role?
You still kind of build the same thing, I feel like. If you're kind of having a little bit of fun, you can triple stack. But realistically, double stacking is the way to go, and that's certainly what she's doing at this point. Starting with the Transcendence, going into the Book of Thoth. And that's just the strength of these hybrid characters, is being able to buy both of these items, and they still kind of build into each other, where Transcendence has the passive, where the more mana you have, the stronger you are. Book of Thoth has the same passive. You love to see just a lot of mana stacking up, and a lot of power coming from it.
Right. And how does that compare to Ragna's build? How do you fight into that if you're Jingwei?
Well, Ragnar really is trying to just kind of, to put it bluntly, get lucky. Jingwei does have crit built into the kit, and that is a very big advantage to be having. Speaking of advantage, though, Dark surely had it against Adapting, who's forced to ult away. Bandolera shows up as well, just in case, but everything seems to have calmed down for a moment. So let me get back to yapping about builds, shall we? Yeah. Anyway, crit is the lucky name of the game here for Ragnar, and if he gets those, that's going to be a solid advantage going forward.
How lucky is Kha'Zix? Not lucky enough.
enough.
Rampage for Dark. It's a very similar tale to what we saw in game 1, just with the roles swapped and Adapting being on the Loki and Dark being on the Susanoo. The stat lines are very similar too.
Yeah, I'm taking notes. If Susanoo gets nerfed later, you can blame these guys. I'm joking, of course. I'm joking. We have stats and all of that good stuff, but it is kind of funny that the Susanoo was the one popping off in both games.
I can't wait for the Betty video or the community video of this is the game that got Susanoo nerfed in Smite 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different considering how badly Horus got nerfed, you know, in comparison in Smite 1, but yeah, I don't know if Susanoo is that good, but not bad at all.
This Pathfinder buff to break out, it's quite the fight, and it does indeed, and Titans Reloaded maybe caught a bit off guard. Ymir's gonna do a lot on that pop, didn't even need to. Dardis had it under control. Athena should just go down, and Coast is the one to lock it down. Gold Fury is the call, the first one, as we get closer to 12 minutes, and it doesn't seem like there will be an answer from Titans Reloaded, which will give us our first real gold lead of the game as well.
Yeah, that is a bit tough. I understand why Titans Reloaded wanted to pick a fight around this buff. They saw the speed buff was, you know, respawning at that point, and there's no greater crime in a Smite game than stealing a speed buff as a jungler. There's not a better one. So that would also feel really good to kind of rub salt in the wound here for Adapting, who is not 5-0 and 0. That is Dark at this point. So that, you know, I get it. I get it. I understand where they were coming from. However, the rotations from Giovanni, the preparation going into before the fight even broke out, just stands out to me as being really disciplined from Giovanni Giorgio. They were ready for that because they know about the heinous act of evading a speed buff, and they weren't gonna let that happen.
Big question for me when we get to these midpoints of the game so far are characters are starting to hit those power spikes and those turning points and really coming online. Are there any that you're becoming accustomed to seeing in gods that we should be looking for as we're getting closer and closer to level 15s and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, around level 15, you'll see your supports really get their power spike because they can get their starters, but those guys are behind everybody else. They're giving all their farm away. They're not having a bad time at all with that. But one really important thing to consider about that level threshold is that is when Sunder reaches its full potency. And so we could see a lot more rotations coming out of the solo laners, having to manage when those specific cooldowns are coming up, and, you know, really paying attention to the comms. We need to CC the Sunder. We need to make sure that they're not able to get in range to use it. Things of that nature will become so much more important at that point. And realistically, there's not a huge item spike in particular for everybody else, but more levels, better.
Better damage as well. Adapting combines with Dardis to bring down Dark. A big pickup and a shutdown onto the Susanoo. Not done fighting yet. Athena with a couple taunts out, but Icy not enough damage to really support it. Ragna gets caught behind the wall, but shockingly takes no damage while being stuck there. There was nobody in a spot to really take advantage of it. Now a dash in, the taunt, good, but Talisman helps out. Opens up the Storm Call, it goes in. Is there enough damage? Yes for 1, but you trade it back. So far, a 2 for 1. Chalk might be tanky enough to be okay from that CC, and is indeed. Giovanni, Giorgio, not as clean of a fight as you might have expected, but they did get a couple picks.
And not only did they get a couple picks, but they got to take down this tower as well. Coast not even rolling up to that fight. He's got the knee ult. He's down to just sit in this lane and shoot that across the map when he has it. And that certainly did turn out pretty all right for Giovanni Giorgio, because realistically, if they are coming out ahead in that fight 4v5, that is a bit scary for Titans Reloaded going forward. They've got to really pull it together going into this mid game if they want to, you know, be a little bit less concerned about that.
I'm scared about the Neath damage because I've been on the receiving end of so many one-shot Neaths where I'm, you know, minding my own business and I'm sitting in the back line of a fight and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, where did the color in my monitor go?
Yeah, sometimes
wrong?
with that full build, you know, it can do 1,000 damage in the right circumstances. So you gotta look out for that. Just you know, fully charged, super late game Neath ult, 3k pot Fire Giant, etc. That will hurt. But I saw production hovering over the Cosmic Horror, and that's a very interesting choice, at least for this point in the game, considering that this threshold did get nerfed up to 300 to gain the extra cooldown rate. But honestly, the stats are not bad. It's got max mana. It's got 100 intelligence, by the way, which is very solid. So altogether, it's a good item, and you'll eventually hit that threshold, right? And the cooldown is really what the important thing is here, because 25 cooldown rate is really, really close to being a premier cooldown item in comparison to your Chronos Pendant. I'm just a little bit surprised that they would pick this over the Chronos Pendant, considering how much cheaper Chronos Pendant is in comparison.
We talked a lot about cooldown rate and what it will mean today. Even in our graphic towards the beginning of the broadcast, both yesterday and today, we made a point of showing, hey, cooldown's really, really good since this most recent patch. And players have picked up on it. And seeing it put to use, I feel like one effect that sort of, I don't want to say forgot about by players, but just of all the things you think about with cooldowns, you'll think about what it means in those big team fights of how much actually comes up. But it's been showing in the pace of play.
Yeah, you could either hit harder or hit more often, which in a sense is also hitting harder. It just depends how accurate you are and what kinds of abilities you're throwing out more frequently. Nice freeze there onto Bandolero. Going to take a solid chunk of damage, but they'll be okay for it.
Might actually turn into trouble for Nika. Got way too aggressive and paid the price. I mean, rare supports get supported like that, but honestly, good for Bandolero.
Yeah, nice little bait there from an over-aggressive Nika. You rarely see things like that where some team is, you know, disciplined as Giovanni Giorgio, just kind of go for it. A little bit of disrespect there, which I'm a bit surprised to see, but it happens. Everyone gets a little heated in the middle of things sometimes. You see blood in the water, you want to just kind of go for it. So I respect it. They got to clean it up though around this Cold Fury.
Already at half. Giovanni Giorgio closing in. Watch adapting on the flank. Where will that Loki go? Decoy out. Icy does secure the Gold Fury. And Giovanni will not force the issue on a fight. So maybe learning a little bit of patience from the previous one. Actually, hang on. They're waiting in the stealth grass. They see Icy. Can they find the pick? They got slowed down from the CC and they cannot find it. Now shields on shields on shields. Still not enough. And it's a double kill for adapting.
Unfortunate misplay there from Icy. Does make a really sick play, by the way, just mechanically, of sending someone into the tower and following quickly after, but Titans Reloaded just not on the same page, did not follow through that teleporter alongside them. So unfortunately for them means that Icy gets picked. You know, Bandolero does the support duty of trying to follow up and drops to the Defender of Olympus to get in there and give some more, you know, shielding to keep the mid laner alive, but it ends up in both of their deaths, which is a bit of an unfortunate circumstance, but keep an eye out because that is genuinely very solid tech that Icy just displayed right there. So if they get that and they're all on the same page, that could be a huge turnaround to a fight. Just unfortunate that not everyone was ready for that to happen.
We saw that a lot yesterday from both Dest and Shinto. The idea, and I think Globe did this a lot actually as well, where a lot of the open the gates, especially early mid-game, were basically just used as a, oh, I don't want to die yet button. And the Hekates were getting into late game having not died at all because of their use of open the gates to just say, all right, peace, and go to the other side of the lane. I feel like it's one of the smarter ways to use it because it keeps you so safe and it gets you so much farm.
Yeah, it's a leap with extra steps, right? At the end of the day, you can use
true.
it like that if you want to. A lot of people do get baited into the, I gotta make the big power play. I gotta hit 4 people and bring them all into my team and do
I'm
that.
people, that's me.
And listen, that's a really fun way to play, don't get me wrong, but sometimes, occasionally, from time to time, it's okay to use it the other way, to just make sure you're staying alive and keeping that farm rolling, because realistically, that's going to be really important that you are staying even. And unfortunately for Icy, just not at this point. 2 levels down compared to Dardes, who, although he's taken some deaths, has got 5 kills to his name. Is not too mad about all the farm that he's been getting, since he's able to pick up that Naga buff, which does scale with level. And speaking of something that scales with level, Fire Giants, but they might just be leashing this one to try and pick up for next year.
It looks like it was off the information from adapting that Giovanni Giorgio called onto the Fire Giant. Adapting saw the tier 1 go down, lots of blue, but the reaction from Titans Reloaded and the early storm call might have been good enough to dissuade Giovanni from full committing onto the fire at 20 minutes. Still 12-7 with that 3K-ish gold lead standing strong for Giovanni Giorgio. So maybe they'll look to pull it further. Ragna, interestingly, was down for an early 1v1 with the Loki. I mean, I know Chalk was right there, but I don't know. If I see a Loki and I'm an ADC at 20 minutes, I'm just walking the other way.
Yeah, I mean, understandably so. If you can get a pick on adapting, that would be huge. And you never know with Jingwei. Might be a couple lucky crits, or 2 or 3 or more, because Jingwei can do so many enhanced basic attacks now in SMITE 2. Those kind of things you could go for. Yeah, you can go for those type of things, and you know, if you get lucky, you get lucky. If you don't, oh well. You know, you tried, which I can definitely appreciate at this stage in the game when you need to start making some plays. You know, 3K down at 21 and a half minutes is certainly not a bad place to be for either team, but gotta be careful because Coast is getting poked out a bit. Gonna head on back and reset for this next Gold Fury fight. Gold Fury number 3, by the way. So after this one goes down, we will be seeing Ancient Fury start to spawn, and that starts to get a bit dicey going into the late game.
Stimix hears the call, teleports over. A lot's going to break down for this Gold Fury, it would appear. Notably, lots of poke onto Dark to start things out. Giovanni pulled first, down to half health. It's going to be a rush if Titans Reloaded want to get it. Spear of the 9 wins. Is there confirmed? There is! But it's for Titans Reloaded who get the steal off the Typhoon from Dark. But what about the stuff after the stuff? Who's going down next? It's adapting. Junglers both traded. Big time ultimates responded to by shells. But Titans Reloaded cannot withstand the storm from Giovanni Giorgio so far. Another one down. That's going to be 4 deaths off of the Gold Fury steal. I thought maybe that was a way in, Lermy, but it was just a way to the grayscale.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate there that that fight did turn out how it did. Icy, you know, made a really good play there with the open the gates. Did set up the portal, just not enough awareness coming out of Titans Reloaded to all hop into that like they did. And guess who's the one that survived? The one that used the portal. Gotta be making sure that the comms are clear when those type of things are happening. And unfortunately, because it's just Icy left, I don't see a universe where they can get that.
Yeah, I like the call. Just grab some farm, vibe, and duo for a little bit. Get yourself some items online. Not much you can do. That's gonna be a Fire Giant for Giovanni Giorgio. It'll be around the belt of all 5 members. 4K gold coming up on 5K. Items are... there's distance being put between. We're back to where we were maybe just a few minutes later in game number 1.
Yeah, it's a bit tough here because the Ancient Fury is not even up yet. And there's still so many towers up for the side of Titans Reloaded. That's a lot of gold still on the board for Giovanni Giorgio to claim for themselves. So if they're able to start making some of these pushes happen, I imagine they head for this left-hand side because realistically, it's a tale as old as time. You get fire, you push the opposite side to fire on the map, and that happens in this game to be the left-hand side. So they're going to run it down here, and probably grab this tier 2. I'd be surprised if they go for a Phoenix, but it depends how confident this group of lads is feeling. Because realistically, they could go for it. Just depends if any kind of mistakes happen from Titans Reloaded or even Giovanni Giorgio. If they, you know, happen to tank a little bit too much, get hit by too many abilities, that could turn things around really quickly.
There's one pick that feels like it's been the case for a lot of Founder series. Get one big time pick and that 4v5, the scales just, they shift so dramatically. And Giovanni, outside the Phoenix range, is looking for an opening. It does look like they're considering the Phoenix Siege that Lermy had mentioned, despite still having a tier 2 in mid, a tier 1, and a tier 2 in solo. Maybe now reconsidering.
They're taking it nice and easy. Ancient Fury is coming up, and of course, Ancient Fury did eat a pretty big nerf in the past patch. So, wanting to be a little bit more patient with things is Giovanni Giorgio, going for the tier 2, and honestly, I do think that's a good choice for them. Pushing that Phoenix would get them a really, really big chance to end the game, you know, if the fight went well, but you never know with a match this close. You know, 6k gold doesn't tell the whole story.
You want to starve defenses too, you know, limit their resources, win by attrition. That's something Giovanni Giorgio have the experience to put together. Maybe that is the path. Adapting did get found in the jungle, takes a lot of damage, had to ult away. Typhoon already committed, trying to find a pick onto Adapting, who had gone to the left. Open the gates, used, won't bring anyone back. So a couple ultimates expended from both sides, but Giovanni A-OK and Titans Reloaded actually able to defend their tier 2 tower in mid.
Yeah, again, they're not too peeved about that. I think the real goal here, now that the Phoenix is exposed, is to snag that Ancient Fury, take down that extremely weakened Phoenix, especially because Fire is going to be up for the next, you know, minute and a half or so. They've got a solid chunk of time, and if I'm Titans Reloaded, I'm gonna definitely try to defend this Ancient Fury, because if I don't, oh gosh, my Phoenix will be in danger, and you never want that to be the case.
Gold Fury. Looks like it's going to be the attention once again from both teams. Now that Ancient Fury. Giovanni stepping up to the Queen Naga, ready to fight for it. And it's not even down to half. And Titans Reloaded, they were so focused on it, they didn't see the engage come out. They've already lost their support. Spear of the Nine Winds does clip Icy. They're falling like flies so far. This is crazy for Giovanni. That's 3 picks. Ragna almost dead. Open the gates to bring 2 closer. Will that be a problem? Shells out. Engage there. Ragna dead. Only one standing is Icy. Walled off, but because the tier 2 in mid is still standing, Icy lives a little bit longer at Lermy. Is there end potential?
They definitely could go for it. It's going to be a little bit tough because tier 1 is still up in solo, but honestly, with that bomb, that might just seal it. It's going to depend on how much Nika is going to be able to tank here. I mean, no ultimate for Icy, but Bandolero is back up. They still got 20 on the next available teammate to come help them out, but this Titan is going down quick.
Already down to half health. What can you do, Icy? Can your Athena set you up enough? Kha'Zix's low. Giovanni Giorgio are calling it off. They can't get the end here. Titans Reloaded almost lost it, but they're still able to fight. But Bandolero got greedy, wanted the kill on the Kha'Zix, is up too far forward, and now Adapting is just doing king things. A double kill in the throne room. Titans Reloaded defend, but got way too overzealous.
A little greedy there from Bandolero, trying to go for the reach to find that kill. Unfortunately, just not enough damage out of the Athena. I mean, you're not expecting the Athena to do too much damage, right? But just not enough. Ancient Fury still on the board as well. And again, the problem still stands. That left-hand Phoenix is exposed. And if the Ancient Fury goes down for Giovanni Giorgio, then that Phoenix is as good as dead.
Titans Reloaded know they can't full commit to the Ancient Fury, no matter how bad they might want to try to give themselves some breathing room. And Giovanni Giorgio, they're going to take that challenge and say, all right, if you want it, come and fight for it. Ancient Fury should go down now and has been fully conceded. The Titans Reloaded, it's time to play Space Invaders, basically.
Yeah, they might not go for it right away because Fire is on the way. Just a little bit longer left on that to be available, and there it is. Honestly, we're ready to go. And a little Fire Giant as a treat is never a bad thing, right? You're taking your advantage and pushing it to a million, turning it up. And
do Titans Hail Mary for this, you think, or do they let it go?
Oh gosh, I would be a little bit timid on that regard, just because if they die here, that's the end of the game. Right, they still have a chance to defend if they let it go, but you never know what's in your basket until you let the eggs hatch. So you gotta be careful, but if there's an opportunity, sure, take it.
Giovanni, posturing, looking for more of a fight than fire. They realize they can starve this out. They're not in a rush to pull anything. Titans Reloaded are the ones in a rush to try to defend, control minion waves, also watch fire. Pyro's added to that list of things. A bomb and pocket for Giovanni feels great. They're basically daring the Titans to step up now.
Yeah, I do kind of like this style, right, of just bleed them out over time. However, I do think they shouldn't be wasting their Ancient Fury that they have, because again, even though the Ancient Fury doesn't fully disable objectives anymore, it still heavily weakens them. And having that amount of advantage on a Phoenix level objective is incredibly strong. So I do wish that they would push it just a little bit more. But again, they're in the driver's seat. They're not too worried about how they get to the end as long as they get there.
What's the PEMDAS for this next fight? What's the order of events we're looking for Titans Reloaded to have a chance?
Honestly, if Titans Reloaded can take down Dardas, I'm feeling pretty good that they're going to be able to get some kind of advantage out of that. At least go even. And if they can just go even, that's all they need to do right now. They don't need to heavy-handedly win a fight. They just need to stall until they get their full builds. Because once they're there, it's a completely even game again.
Dark stunned. Not too much danger yet. Taunts out. Talisman used to keep Tazik safe. Nika in aggressively, but the poke is minor, at least to this point. So Giovanni able to still regroup. Two-man taunt from Athena. Is there follow-up, or was that a dangerous taunt? As Nika goes in, Spear of the Nine Winds will not find a home. The Athena ulting away. It will not be in time, and the first pick of the fight is the support for Titans Reloaded.
And that's probably going to be the call to give up the fire giant here. As much as you do want to go and contest this, it's just so dangerous without one of your front lines. The Stimix, might have the center available, so could try to go for the Hail Mary steal, but it's gonna be close.
Really close. The margins have to be perfect, and they were not for Titans Reloaded. And Giovanni Giorgio are ready to close down the game. The picks start to fall. Icy, then Listimics. Who's up next? Might just be Ragna, as that airstrike has to come down. Dark is gone. The deicide is there, and Giovanni Giorgio will not be stopped this day.
Yeah, that is GG after a fight like that, unfortunately. And just really, really clean play from Giovanni Giorgio today. I was a little bit skeptical there towards the end, when we saw Listimics get in there with the Sunder. It kind of 50-50 to be honest with you, but realistically, the discipline coming out of Giovanni Giorgio was just so much better this game.
Yeah.
You did see it quite a lot, and realistically, that's what you kind of expect out of a team like that. So, despite it all, Titans Reloaded still had a very strong performance, but I guess the team as strong as that, it's just so tough to get everything going your way. So, a couple small victories here and there for Titans Reloaded, and they certainly shouldn't feel bad about this performance. There were lots of shines of brilliance throughout the match, but just not enough to take it.
I completely agree with that, with not feeling bad about it if you're Titans Reloaded. One of the positives of it being the Swiss stage is you aren't done. You've got plenty of games still left to play, plenty of best of threes at that. And, I mean, you lost, but look who you lost to. So many world champions, the pedigree of which you lost to. If you have the mental fortitude to take lessons from that set in those two games and say, you know what, if anything, let's hit the tape tonight, and next time we run into Giovanni Giorgio, should that happen, because that can happen in Swiss, we're going to be ready. And with stats, Lermy, we've talked about the feel and the grandiose of the players. What do stats tell us?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, just look at the damage across the board. Icy was bringing it for sure. Just not enough cohesion together to really equate it to any of the other 20 plus Ks across the board for Giovanni Giorgio. And the only one not hitting that marker is Kha'Zix, which, I mean, you're not expecting your support to do that. And honestly, it's even crazy that the majority of their team hit that marker, considering that the way that you play all of these roles is just so different. But seeing all of that come together for them certainly did make a marker on things. And you just love to see when a plan comes together, which certainly did for Giovanni Giorgio.
Yeah, the plan was hidden on all cylinders. They had everything locked down and a great performance. Both games from adapting, but I feel like the late game on Loki was really something to watch. Well, let's see where that puts us. Let's check in on our bracket for the Swiss stage for EMEA. Giovanni Giorgio with the 2-0. They join Team Risk, who had the other 2-0 of this portion of the Swiss stage, whereas Smoke Break had a bit more of a fight against Typhonic. And as you can see, you play somebody with the same record as you in Swiss stage. So Giovanni Giorgio will move up to that 2-0 alongside Team Risk and Smoke Break, really just waiting to see the last team that will be joining them to figure out the matchups. So with that, Lermy, I mean, we really talked about a lot between these two teams. The schedule's still up for the next game. What are some lessons we should be taking as we look at that schedule of what we can expect, maybe selection-wise?
Yeah, when it comes to it, I do think that, the Odin, the Neath are still going to be kind of top of the chopping block. We saw Jingwei get a lot of priority in this set, but honestly, I don't feel like the Jingwei had the pop off that you would expect out of a first pick. Hecate, definitely the one that I want to keep an eye on because, again, even though the Hecate was on the losing side this round, still able to pull off quite a lot of damage. So going into this next set of Mockingbird versus Yodi Gang, I want to see Hecate, I want to see Odin, I want to see Neath. Those three characters are what I'm on the lookout for in this next set to see priority around those.
You're the smart one. I can talk loud, but I want to see Goobus.
I want to see Anubis too, bro. That would be crazy.
It was so
That'd
fun.
be
There was
insane.
yesterday. JMac and Inbound got to cast so much Anubis, and I want to cast some frontline Anubis. That sounds like so much fun. The battle dog. Come on.
Yes, and
When's it our
believe
turn?
you me, Anubis is a strong character right now, but you do see a lot of the times those characters that have really strong win rates in casuals and even in ranked, even the top end of ranked, don't get picked up all the time in competitive play. It's just a different beast when it comes down to it. And speaking of that different beast, Anubis certainly is from this patch to last. So realistically, we could see him. Am I hoping we see him? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Will we? I'm not 100% confident in that one. I can't say for sure. If we do, make sure you stick around for that one, though, because that's going to be an insane set if we get to see an Anubis.
I'll keep holding out my hope. I'll do my. I was gonna say rain dance, but I guess I'll do my Plague of Locust dance. I guess that's more.
Those
That's
exist?
more lore accurate.
I guess.
I can try my best. I'm not that good on my feet with dancing, but I can do my best to get Anubis solo in these
And hey,
games for
that's
sure.
what matters.
Exactly. Well, that game's still yet to come, so stick around. As Lermy said, there's plenty more action on the horizon today, so don't go anywhere.